Welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. 2025 is here. And we are hitting the ground running. But before that, I just want to say I hope you had a chance to take time with your family during the holidays, that you got to celebrate the birth of our Savior, as well as share with friends and family, and just have time to get together and fellowship and enjoy some downtime, maybe a little bit of downtime with your family, and maybe it's a rest and relaxation as you get ready for your 2025, whatever that is, whether it be in bass fishing or in business, or as a new phase of your life. I read a lot of posts over the holiday about retirements and people going into that phase of their life. Unfortunately, I didn't get to make that post. So I will not be retiring in 2025. So unless we win a lottery or something like that, I don't see Kay Donaldson getting to retire in 2025. But unfortunately for our family, we did get to celebrate, but unfortunately on Christmas Day, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law were taken to the hospital. I'm happy to report my mother-in-law is recovering at a local rehabilitation facility in the Shoals area, but unfortunately, this Saturday, my father-in-law did pass away to his sicknesses, and we will be celebrating his life on Tuesday. As you're listening to this, we'll be celebrating his life and his homegoing to be in heaven. So our year didn't end the way that we had hoped it would, but you know that's the one thing that's very clear. We all have a certain amount of time, and that time has been pre-written for us, and so we will celebrate the life that Bob Weaver led and had, and then we will also celebrate knowing where he is now. So, thank you to everyone who called and text and sent emails. Very few people knew about this. My in-laws are very private people and did not want a lot said about that. But to those who are close to me here on the Alabama Bass Trail that knew about it, I do appreciate you reaching out and checking on us. We are doing okay. We are getting through it. So it seems like I told someone today, seems like December has been a month for our family over the past couple years. So next year, if you see me sign off December 1 and don't come back till January, just know that December has not been my best months the last couple years. So, but I am grateful and thankful. My son Taylor is doing well. He is actually on his way back from New York. He got to celebrate there for a little while, one of his favorite places. He's on his way back home, got to celebrate with all the kids and family, and it was just a really good time to kind of sit back and think about goals and things for 2025. And guess what? It is here. It is here. And I will say this, and I did it to myself, having a mid-January tournament is not for the weak and faint of heart. There is so much to get done, and you have Thanksgiving. Most of our shops are closed for a week. You have Thanksgiving or Christmas, and they're closed from Christmas Eve till today, basically. So you're shut down on being able to get things designed and printed and all the things. So it's tough, and it's not for the weak and faint of heart. I know I set the schedule. It's all on me. I get it. I hear that every year that, Kay, you do this to yourself. But when you think about all the backdrops and the banners and the signs and the checks and the trophies and everything that has to be done prior to the middle of January, it is quite crazy. And I'll tell you what's even crazier is trying to get your paperwork. Absolutely. The craziest thing that I have ever seen is trying to get paperwork in. That we send it to emails that you provide us. It is the absolute craziest thing I have ever seen. So if you have not done your paperwork, I'm looking straight into the camera at you. You know if you got it. You know that you gave us this email address. Go and look for it. Look for it in your spam folder. It was either December 26th or December 27th. There's zero reason for me to resend it to the same email address we sent it to the first time. Angela and I are the only two full-time employees, and we just don't have time to sit here and send it out to 169 people. And yes, that's how many people who have not completed it out of 1,100. We don't have time to resend 169 emails. So go to your spam folder, go to your email, look for an email from DocuSign. Get on there, fill it out. We would be so appreciative. You cannot fish if you don't sign this. It is your rules acknowledgement. It is your W-9. It is your terms and conditions. Get online and get it filled out. That's all the harping I'm going to do in this podcast. So, um, one of the other things that I've really got to enjoy is being able to surf through social media and see what all's going on our lakes. Um, of course, we're constantly looking at how the Cousa River is producing with everything that's been going on. But honestly, like looking at bass fishing from the Tennessee River south has been phenomenal. Um, I looked at Wheeler Lake, just for instance. I saw Hayden Marbut. He's taking everybody's money. So if you get there in the morning and you see Hayden at the boat ramp, just put it on the truck and go home because he's winning everybody's money. He fished two tournaments there in January on Wheeler Lake. 2205 was on his January 1st tournament. He took the win with a 531 big fish. And then on January the 4th, he had 2180 with a 605 big fish. So, like, he's just taking everybody else's money. Fisher and Ryan and I, they had 19 pounds on the 4th of January. They took second place. I saw 3 smallmouth in that bag. So that was exciting. Very pretty smallmouth bass. So that's an exciting time for Wheeler Lake. I love seeing it fish this good this early in the year. We had a phenomenal tournament there in April. So, and even a really good tournament there in November for the ABT 100. So Wheeler has stayed consistent as well. We always talk about Guntersville, and we're going to do a lot of that in the next segment when I bring on Luke Dunkin. We're going to talk about the ABT 100 that we've got there in 12 days. We're going to talk about that. So I'm not going to really go into everything that's been going on at Guntersville lately, but we got a lot to talk about when Luke gets on here. Looking at Weiss Lake, I saw a tournament this past weekend. They had 3 bags over 15 pounds. So I was interested in that. So I talked to Bradley Jones earlier this morning. And I asked him, I said, honestly, how has Weiss been fishing? And he said, well, it's actually been good. It's not good 2 or 3 years ago, good, but we've had 20-pound bags there. He said, this weekend, the water was muddy and the surface temperature was below 48 degrees. He said, typically that isolates fish into a couple of areas on the lake and you just couldn't get that big bite. So, 20 pounds is what it's been taking to win. This week it was 1588 and they had 3 bags over 15 pounds. So, all in all, Weiss is okay. He said it's not stellar, but it's holding its on. So that was good. What anybody that knows Bradley knows he spends a ton of time on Weiss Lake. So it was good to hear that. And then Cousa River, in general, we talk about the Cousa River, and a lot of guys don't necessarily want you to know where they're fishing. And Cade Croson is like that. Like he just says, I slipped on down to the Cousa River. He doesn't mention if it was Mitchell, Lay, Logan. He didn't really say. But looking at his post, the past few times he's been on Facebook, his best 5 have gone between 18 and 19 pounds. So I have a feeling some of it's Lay, some of it may be Mitchell. Those Croson boys can catch them. So, props to them, but he's not giving me enough information. Miss Kay needs to know what lake you're on. So that I can report all the good news. So I did see where Airport Marine had a tournament. I believe it was last Saturday on Lake Mitchell, which I found these weights pretty interesting. 20.121 and 6th place was 1792. I mean, that's pretty good weights. I have no idea how many people were in the tournament, but really exciting weights from over there at Lake Mitchell, one of the smaller bodies of water on the Cousa River. I did a little pecking around on the Facebook and noticed that there had been a couple of events over on Pickwick. One that happened this past Saturday out of McFarland Park, 25051. And that was anchored by a 585 big fish. They had 8 bags over 20 pounds. I want to say there was maybe 15, 20 boats in that tournament. 8 bags over 20 pounds and 6.40 was the big fish. Don't know if it was a smallmouth or a largemouth, but overall pretty good weights for the winter time of the year. And again, February, this past Saturday, it was still fairly warm, but a very, very cold morning. And as you can imagine, the next 10 days are going to be brutally cold, which may completely destroy what I was hoping for at Lake Guntersville. But we're going to talk about that and see what we think that it's going to take on the ABT 100, because I've been looking forward to this tournament since I scheduled it a year ago. Since we announced the schedule last March, I've been looking forward to this. And then seeing the weights in November and December and what they were doing. And a lot of our teams doing really well there. Jed Lamb, Andrew Loberg. doing really well in some of these tournaments. But as I was noticing on the list of anglers for the ABT 100 this year, there's quite a few names that I don't recognize. So it's going to be really interesting too for me to see how some of these teams do. And I know Luke knows a lot of these guys way better than I do. So to see his top 5 teams and who his black horse is going to be very enlightening as we move into the Alabama Bass Trail 100 on Lake Guntersville. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, a ton of names on here that I don't know. Like we had maybe 60 from the year before that re-signed. So some of these are not necessarily new to the Alabama Bass Trail 100, but they may be fishing with someone kind of new on the Alabama Bass Trail 100. But there's also some very familiar names like Donnie Beck, Tony Harvey. I mean, your names that you know, your Josh Chappells, your Paul Davis. Then you've got Brian Stifler, Wesley Gore. There's quite a few names on here that everyone's going to know. Derek Hicks, Alex Davis. But then there's some here that may be new to the Alabama Bass Trail 100, but they're certainly not new to the Tennessee River. So we're going to talk about some of those. Luke got a little bit of insight to this list before the podcast today. So we're going to get with him and talk with him about what he thinks. Let's talk about how his year ended up, his 2024 ended up, kind of what he has on tap for 2025, anything new with the MPFL. As we know, no forward-facing sonar moving into 2025 for them, but just kind of how things are shaking up for Mr. Luke Dunkin. We'll get into the Alabama Bass Trail 100, talk about that season and the first 2 ABTs that will just be right around the corner after this one. It seems like once we get started, it's just bam, 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 and then boom, it's June 21st and we're over with. So there's a lot to take in and a lot to talk about when we get back with Luke here in just a minute, but please stay tuned. You're going to want to hear from Mr. Luke Dunkin. We're excited about the 2025 season. We're glad you're back with us. So y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back here on the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Things you let me see. Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Luke Dunkin is in the house. What up, dude?
Back. I'm so glad to be back talking some bass fishing. I took me a little break. I've been gone. I did a Low Budget Live this week and now the ABT podcast, and we're getting ready for some cold weather bass fishing.
I mean, are you surprised? At this point, no. It is almost comical.
Well, I said it last year when we had the Snow Bowl and you had people whining and crying, oh, it's cold. If you sign up for a January bass tournament, I know Alabama, it might be 70 degrees and then you have a frostbite on your sunburn the next day. That's just our weather this time of year. But you sign up for a January bass tournament, I mean, you're going to get bad weather more times than not, I feel like, But well, of course, it was 60 degrees around Christmas.
Of course, I'm already sporting the belt. I get to wear it for just a little bit, and then I have to give it to somebody. I mean, like Paul Davis and Josh Chappell. I mean,
And then we douse them in beer.
And then we douse them in beer. They get to drink it and we get to shake it on them. So I don't know how fair that was. I think it should have been reversed. Well, I don't know who worked harder that year, us or them. But anyway, they get to be the reigning champions this year. But before we get into Alabama Bass Trail 100, before we get into work, let's talk about, I have to say this because you gave us Alabama fans such hell over the Tennessee-Alabama game. Yes, Alabama got beat again by Michigan 2 times, I think, in a year. But Tennessee, Ohio State, dude, like it didn't even look like the same team. It didn't even look like the same team.
We laid an egg, but I think, we definitely ran into a buzzsaw, and I think we've seen that since the Oregon game. Had the Oregon game been lopsided and Oregon blew them out, I'd have been even more upset. And there's no way, like, listen, as Alabama fans, most of the Alabama fans, the football fans that listen to the show are Alabama fans. Y'all know like it's either championships or nothing. We haven't won
Hmm.
one in a very long time. When we got a chance to be in the playoff, you don't want to be put out first round. So, participation trophies aren't really what you're there for as a fan or as a player. I know a couple of the players on the team and they are devastated by this because this was one of the best squads they have had in a very long time, other than that 2022 squad before Hendon Hooker got hurt. But it did make us feel a little bit better, I think, that Ohio State. I think them getting beat by Michigan and then all the media talking about them and all the media being like, oh, you're playing an SEC team. They were more than ready for us to get to, and our fan base is crazy anyways, and I'm one of them, but that they were going to checker Ohio State Stadium, and they showed up, man. College game day was nothing but Tennessee fans. They took offense to it, and they
Hmm.
came out like hitting hard, and really just seemed like they knew everything we were going to do before we did it. It was wild, but I think they're the team to beat now, though. Now Georgia's out. It's not, other than Texas, no SEC school left. It's really surprising, but I can't, and I got to take a shot at y'all a little bit. I cannot believe, and I know you had this transfer portal, got kids out, this new age of college football, but that Michigan game was just terrible. Like it's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I was watching that, I was texting little Trey Swindle, and I'm like, what is going, and Darian, because I've got to give them a hard time. And I'm like, what is going on? Like y'all are letting Michigan just own y'all.
Hmm.
And I hate that as a SEC. I'm not one of these like, oh, I want Bama to get beat every time they play somebody, or like I'm an SEC guy. Like I'm
Hmm.
proud of like the football that we play and all the sports. And I'm like, man, we can't let the Big Ten beat us. They beat Tennessee and they beat Bama twice in the same year. So I don't know. I really do feel like Texas could win it all. I said that from the beginning of the year. Yeah, I know Georgia laid it on them twice, but I still think they're going to have something to say before it's all over with. I hope. I'd like to see an SEC team win.
I think Sark's a good guy.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Just watching his career and being at the lowest of the low in, your coaching career and then being given a chance by Saban and then being able to make those other steps to get to Texas, one of the most affluent programs in all of college football. I mean, what kind of
Yeah.
money do they not have? You mentioned this a little bit, and I'm certainly not a college football professional. I didn't even watch the Alabama game because it happened to be 57, 58 degrees that day. And I have a new pool. And so
You was not mine.
I was sitting on my patio furniture, enjoying just the sunshine because of what I knew was going to happen this week. So I didn't even watch it. So I'm marked safe from all the Alabama, and I really didn't even turn on social media that much, but to post a picture of me sitting by my pool on that day. Um, you mentioned it, transfer portal. I had a son that was in athletics in college. Know a lot of kids that have gone through that. To me, it has absolutely ruined college athletics.
It has.
Um, I know at one time the Manning kid that went to Texas was paid like $4 million or something, and he was a third string quarterback when Josh Purdy, or whatever his name is, Brock Purdy at the 49ers, was making $800,000
Yeah.
a year
Oh, yeah.
and led his team to the Super Bowl and was
Yeah.
making 800,000, and this kid is making 4 million and has not stepped foot on the field in a play. Something is just wrong with that. I have
Yeah.
zero issue with players being compensated for their time
Oh, yeah.
because they do have to do interviews and they have to do photo shoots and they have to do all these, things for the school. Have zero issue with that. But at the time that a player is saying, I was a star at this school, but you're going to pay me a couple million more. Okay, fine. And then I know Kurt Herbstreit said this about, you're going to the fourth school in the fourth year and
Yep.
oh, it's, God, you've been talking to God and God's made you move here,
Yeah.
but you got $2 million more. I mean,
Yeah. It's
it's just
NIL
a sad
transfer portal.
situation.
Well, it's really once I've joked about this on the podcast over the years with live scopes. Like once you take the monster out of the box, how do you get it back in? Right. And
Mhm,
that's what we have a
mhm,
live scope and all the things. And I'm obviously a live scope fan. But that's what this is. I had no problem with, like you're saying, being compensated because these schools do make millions and millions and millions of dollars, especially on college
mhm,
football, SEC college football, the TV contracts, the 100,000 butts in a stadium to watch a 19-year-old kid. And he's getting yeah, I get it. He's getting an
mhm,
education, but like, give him some cat. Like, I do
mhm.
that, right? But I mean, our quarterback, Nico at Tennessee, word is he's like upwards of around million.
Mhm.
It's a 19 or 20-year-old kid.
Mhm.
I mean, he was a freshman this year, true freshman,
Mhm.
right? So a redshirt freshman. So I think it's turned it into just the wild, wild west. There's not enough regulations on it at all. And what bums me out is I'm always off, in the boating industry. We slow down the last couple weeks of the year. I love bowl games. Always have. Even if it's two teams I've never even heard of, don't care. I like watching football. I like having football on. That's your last chance. Now with this transfer portal, it's like the Bama team against Michigan. Well, half their studs were like, yeah, well, see y'all. I'm
Mhm.
going here, I'm going there, and they elect not to play. Or now they're like, well, I'm going to the NFL draft, so I can't risk blowing my knee out, which I understand is a business decision. But I think about the quarterback from Miami. He played the first half and not the second half. What? Like that's just I'm such a competitor. I can't
Mhm.
imagine being like, man, I'm gonna let my guys get beat because I'm just gonna choose to stand over here and make a business decision. Like it really has, I won't say ruined it because I feel like college football this year was so much fun to watch because it has even the playing leveled it out, right? Like you got teams, you got uh an Indiana, you got teams that have studs because they're able to pay, or an SMU,
Mhm.
they had some studs.
Mhm.
Now they ran up against some Mack trucks when they got in the
Mhm.
playoffs.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you're seeing some, better competition out there, not just SEC dominated, not just Big Ten dominated. You've got some really good teams because of this. So I can't say it's ruined it, but they got to figure out a way to regulate it. I was joking with my buddy Corey the other day. I said they need to declare before the first snap of the year. That way your team knows, like you've got to put your name on a list that, yeah, I think I'm going to transfer at the end of the year. You can't make that decision after you see how the year goes. You got to
Mhm.
say right now. That way they all look at you in the locker room and go,
Mhm. Mhm.
"Yeah, you
Mhm.
fixing to dip out on us now." We
Mhm.
because we in here as brothers. I
Right.
think some kind of change to make it where they can't just jump around. Now, as a Tennessee fan, I have to say, like on the basketball side of it, we got Dalton Connect, who's one of the best basketball players any of us have ever seen. He
Right.
was a he was an unknown at a nowhere Colorado school. Rick Barnes finds him and gets him to Tennessee in the transfer portal. So much fun to watch. So I can't say, man, that transfer portal, shut it down.
Yeah.
I can't say that. Same thing
Yeah.
this year. We got a couple like Chaz Lanier, stud out of the
Yes.
portal. It's happening. So as a fan, it's like you love it and you hate it, right? Like you
Yeah.
get with the bad. But we had I think we're to 15 kids on the Tennessee football roster. Some, a couple, two or three starters that are leaving, going elsewhere and the portal did not give back. It just took. We didn't get anything really great out of it in the first go round. I think it opens back in April or something crazy, but it has definitely changed the scope of it though forever.
It has. I hate it. Like I said, I wish there was a way that people were compensated equally. And I know that you're rating 5-star quarterbacks and 1-star athletes and 3-star athletes, and I get all that. I just think that it is there needs to be some fair compensation. I just hate for it to be like the Wild Wild West and the way it is. I have no I mean, I rarely watch football games. I will watch them every time. I tell you what I will watch. And I will watch some college basketball. I am a huge college basketball fan. I'm
Right.
a high school basketball fan. But before we get off the transfer portal, I want to mention one other thing that I think is a huge travesty. Junior college athletes play 2 years in junior college and go to a 4-year college and get 4 more years of eligibility.
No, it's so stupid. It's so
What are
stupid.
athletes that are juniors and seniors in high school right now? There's
Yeah.
no place for them now.
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
I
if
think
I
I got some
was
eligibility left, Kay. I don't know
well,
if it wants me to do anything, but I think I got some eligibility left at 41.
I'm sitting here and I'm reading people's post about it and former athletes, and they're like, "Oh, this is so great!" And man, I wish this would have been when I was in college. And I'm sitting here thinking, there, if I'm a junior or senior in high school, like I just got my balloon. I mean, if you're not hitting 400,
Yeah.
stealing 30 bases or whatever, if you're that mid-level junior college guy or think you can go to a D3 or D2 school, I mean, these kids are going to have proven GPAs. They're going to have to study, you know, ethics. They're going to know how to study and know how to manage the time and know how to do all that. From an incoming freshman from a high school, I hate that for them. I just think that 6 years eligibility however you get it. I just think 6 years is just
The Vanderbilt quarterback, Diego Pavia, which by the way, his
insane athlete.
he's
Super cool to
insane.
watch.
Yeah, but he's gonna be like 30. And then
30.
also when you hear interviews with him, Vanderbilt's always been known for their academics. I want to see his transcripts.
Yeah, no way.
Somebody
No
tell
way.
me that he's taking classes at a community college down the damn road and they letting him play football. That, I don't believe anything, but every time
No.
I'm like, this is Vanderbilt. You got to have like a 30 on the ACT to get in. What are you talking about?
I
Kid
said
ain't
the
going
same
over
thing.
there.
I said the same thing. Amazing athlete. He
No,
absolutely just
he's a
ate
beast.
Alabama's lunch. I mean, he
He's a
just did
beast.
everything, he could do and beat Alabama hands down. I hate that. I hate just recovering some of these topics that happened while we were off or while we were disconnected. But I hate that. I really worry about people that are coming out of high school right now, and I know how much athletics meant to Jake and going into that next level of his life. And these kids have spent 12 years, working to be able to be recruited. And what is that going to do now? Like it just it's a really sad situation for me. I absolutely hate it. So
If you get signed, you're gonna ride the bench, unless you are just that freak,
right.
one in a million kind of kid. But we had a young man here from Lawrenceburg, Alex Bedford, that just signed to play with the Tennessee Vols, though. That's a senior with my son Wes, and Tony Vitello signed him. So
That's
pretty
good. I
pretty
love
confident.
it. I love the fact that, and I hope coaches will be committed to those kids because there is enough, you know, I look at, Perfect Game and all the organizations that have built those kids for so long, and you come through and you play the wood bat tournaments and you do all that to attract that attention. Where does that fall or where does that leave them? It's just a lot. I'm not a fan of the giving them 4 years of eligibility once they transfer to a D1 school. I think that's just wrong in so many ways. But that's my 2 cents on it. Haters go ahead and hate. Commenters go ahead and comment. It's my opinion. It's not like
Like,
it's going to
why aren't they
change the
talking about
world.
bass fishing? And I'm
I
like,
know. Why aren't they
I talk
talking
about
about bass
I
fishing?
talk about bass fishing all the time, man. I like
Right.
talking.
I do. I talk well, when this podcast is about bass fishing, it's about the Alabama Bass Trail, all kinds of things. But it's been a minute. I haven't
That's
seen
been.
you, haven't really got to talk to you. We kind of been doing our own thing, but we do have a very important tournament coming up at Lake Guntersville. I want to point out Lake Guntersville has been the jumping off point for the Alabama Bass Trail since its inception. We announced the tourism marketing promotion there. We announced the Alabama Bass Trail tournament series there. We had our first tournament there. We announced the ABT 100 there. We went there our first year. We're back kicking things off at the Alabama Bass Trail 100 at Lake Guntersville. Almost, let me think, almost 12 years to the day of us starting the Alabama Bass Trail. First
That's
tournament, February 1st, 2014. So now it's January the 18th. 3202 was the first tournament ever. Brandon Staggs, Jerry Wright won 3202. Is it going to stand?
if there's ever been one that you could circle and say it might not stand with what's been going on over there. It could be this week. Now, I do think the weights have kind of chilled out a little bit. I think whatever was happening over there in November, I actually got to go a couple weeks ago. Little Trey and I went, and it stunk. I'll just tell you, like it was not good. And he had been pounding them. He's like, "You got to come over. You got to go. You got to go." And we're like catching a lot of drum. It was not good. And I'm like, I think you've been lying to me. These pictures have been photoshopped. You've been sending me. But so it has changed a little bit. I think they've gotten a lot of pressure, which they always do. We know that. Guntersville's heavily pressured. But I think if there's ever been a tournament where we could break that 32, I think you could see north of that in this one if somebody lands on the right little wad of them, and they are certainly swimming around. But I think so many factors go into play. We saw that last January too, though, right? Like the New Year's Day tournament. But I think Andrew Loberg, Jed Lamb won on New Year's Day with like 23. Now it was windy, which hurts the deal everybody seems to be doing over there right now. But that was a far cry from Hayden Marbett having 34 on the Black Friday tournament and there being like 15 bags over 25. I think
Right.
Trey and Fisher and I had 29 and we're like 11th. or something in that. Like it was
Hmm.
insane. So I'm fingers crossed hoping that it goes down like that for sure. Brandon Stacks and Jerry Wright, two of my favorite folks in this whole world, known them a long time. But it's time for that record to fall. You know, it's time. Could it
Well,
be that we'll see?
you're going to have all the people that are going to say, "Oh, well, it wasn't 200 boats; it was just 100 boats and all that." I'm sorry, 100 boats with the anticipated weather that we've got leading up to it, and we'll talk about that. They say 10 to 12 days from now, or the 10th through the 12th is going to be our worst kind of weather. I think that's Friday through Sunday is going to kind of be the worst. Potential snowfall. I don't want to, harp on this, but in 2015, on February the 25th, we had 13 inches of snow fall on Lake Guntersville.
Mhm.
And it was the first stop of the Alabama Bass Trail a whole month later than when we had it in 2014. It was at Goose Pond, and we got 13 inches of snow. And I think Josh Bragg won with over 28 pounds. So, and it was 206 boats, I believe. So crazy, crazy amounts of bass weighed in on those days. It will just be 100 boats. But when you look at the field, I sent you the boat numbers and the teams that are on this field. Um, at Goose Pond, I think, which maybe gives some people some advantage because of where they're going to be fishing. They're not going to be running all the way from the state park. A lot of people are probably going to fish around the Goose Pond area. Will we see Josh Butt, Stephen McAvoy go to a bridge?
1,000,000%. It's Josh Butts and Stephen McAvoy. Like he might as well pay rent under a bridge, you know. Butts and I talk a good bit. He's one of my favorite folks. You know that, and I didn't know he was fishing the 100s. I should have. He has not said that to me. We've been texting a bunch here recently, and I did not know that. We've been texting some deer hunting stuff, but I was
Mm-hmm.
excited to see his name on the list because this is one of those. I mean, like they know what they do. They know their deal, and they're going to be doing it. I have no doubt.
Is it bridge time? I mean, I know that March time frame they've won on bridges before. Is January going to play into that?
Yeah, yeah, I think
Can it
so.
can it win against Scopin?
No.
No.
Probably not. I don't know that anything can with the weights those kids have been kicking
Yeah.
out. Like it truly is insane. Trey told me there's a stretch over there where a lot of those bigger stringers have been coming from, and Trey and I were fishing. He said, "Man, on the Black Friday tournament, there were 15 of us started on this stretch, and everybody had over 25. It's insane, and they're all doing
Hmm.
that deal."
Hmm.
Running around. And that's easier said than done. Like you can say, yeah, scoping. Oh, well, yeah, go drop your trolling motor river. Well, that's not the case. Like it's a pretty specific thing that they're doing. But if anything can beat it, it is the bridges. Unfortunately, that's a boat number game a lot of the time. It's a timing thing. Like you've got to be there when they fire, if they fire that day. For me, I love that early season, like trap bite on Guntersville, that old school, you know, chatterbait, that type stuff, throwing a jerk bait around the grass. I don't think you can compete against those guys doing that anymore. Now, could you catch 25 pounds? Absolutely. Because those fish aren't getting beat on a lot of the
Right,
time.
right. Those shallow fish are, yeah, they're not getting beat on the way they did.
They're not. So, but I do feel like the cold weather impacts that bite more than it does the bridge scoping deal. So
Hmm.
this one's going to be for me. I said it when you put on schedule. I'm like, we're going to see 35. Like we might.
Yeah.
Darian and I were texting about. I'm like, we might see 35. And then after the Black Friday turn, I was like, dude, we're going to see 35.
Yeah.
Like in this bunch is going to catch 35. Like there's no way they don't. Like it's just
Well,
going to doors off of it. But weights have changed a little bit in the last couple of weeks for whatever reason.
will the fish have time to get conditioned to the cold weather? Like, I mean, we're going to get cold I mean, we're getting cold today. Like, it's been snow flurries out my window.
Yeah.
It's not sticky, anything like that. The best chance for snow, I think we have is Friday into Friday night. A lot of guys may be coming here to practice on those days, but be weather aware. Um, will they have time between the 10th and the 18th to kind of settle into that? Maybe we'll start to see a warming change, but right now it looks like mid to low 30s are the highs for those days.
Yeah, I think they will. I think the water temperature dropped a lot in a couple weeks over there because we had some cold weather in
Hmm.
December. Then the week of Christmas it kind of got back nice and in the 50s and 60s around here, and then it dropped off again. I think they're probably already getting in that winter deal that they do. So
Hmm.
yeah, fish will be used to it. It's just a matter of can you land on the right little wad of them? And listen, looking through that list, we've just got some stone cold. Like this year is going to be, those 100s are stacked up.
They are stacked. What a lot of people probably don't know that's listening to this podcast is when the FLW tour, RIP FLW, when the tour came there in 2008, I believe it was the week of Valentine's Day. I don't exactly know the dates, but I wasn't signed up to fish that tournament. Like I wasn't signed up to fish that tournament, and FLW calls me. Oh, Bill Taylor. Hey, Kay. We need a co-angler. We need a co-angler. Would you mind fishing as a co-angler? And I was like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. It's cold. I'm your fair weather girl, Bill. I'm the one that fishes in May and June. So I agreed to do that. I agreed to do that in 2000. I believe it was 2008. And so, of course, day one, we're all kind of laughing about who I'm going to get paired with and who the poor son of a gun is that's going to get paired with me. And it would be none other than Greg Pugh.
I've never heard the story.
Yeah, Greg Pugh.
And he told nothing but the truth all day long.
The crazy thing is like he kind of did, which shocked me. I mean, anglers never tell a story. Surely not. But he tells me where we're going, and I could see it on the map. I had no idea how far that was, but we were boat 66, and it was so blooming cold. And he still had his M&M boat, and I'm over there holding on for dear life. We're boat 66, and everybody went the same way we were going. But luckily, we get to our area, Jones Creek. Nobody in there, which surprised the heck out of me. 45 minutes later, when I finally get my gloves untangled from my DT sevens or spring crawl color, that I looked all over God's creation for, because that was going to be the bite. Certainly it was. Honestly, I had 3 fish that went 21 pounds out of that creek. When the camera pulled up, he had 2. And he's like, go talk to her. She, anyway, he's throwing
I never knew this story. You caught 3 for 21?
In the first stop, dude. And like we left.
And he was shook.
And he ended up, but he caught 5. And anyway, well, the next day I get with Tim Johnson out of Georgia. And he tells me we're going to crank all day long. So don't bring plastics, don't bring any of this. So of course we go to Roseberry, 32 boats in Roseberry Creek day one. They all had about 18 pounds. Roseberry's done, like it's done. We sat in there for 3 hours, I guess. He had one 15-incher. We left, we hit the second boat dock when you enter, and he throws a jig. Well, you know me and my face, you can read it all over my face. And the thing that was, and forgive me, everybody who's watching this that may get offended by this, but every time we stopped, he wanted to pray, and I'm good with that. I'm good with praying for that. Whatever. We get up, and he throws a jig under the dock 4 times. 4th cast, boom, 4.5 pounder. I'm mad. I'm so mad because he told me do not bring any plastics.
Oh yeah.
And I'll give Greg credit. Like Greg said, if I'm throwing something you don't have it, here's my blocker box. Get whatever you want. I mean, open, very nice, all that. But he knew me. He knew I was kind of a. Anyway, I won't say that word. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so Mr. Johnson didn't. And so I just sat there. We get up to Mud Creek, and it's, of course, so shallow at that time, and it's gotten up and it's warm, and there's nobody there, which tells me they're not biting here. So we get there, and he sits down to pray, and I just get up and I start reeling. And he looks at me and he said, am I offending you by praying? I said, no, you offended me when you lied to me and told me we weren't going to throw plastics all day. Praying doesn't offend me. Lying offends me. And so I just kept going, and I didn't talk the rest of the day. And we go to Pine Island and we do all the things. And I think he ends up with 3 fish that day. And the whole way in, I'm preaching to him. I'm like, you do realize that I'm the tourism girl and everybody loves me, and I'm not weighing in today. And I weighed in 3 fish.
You were that co-angler.
I was.
The reason they got rid of in the Bassmaster Opens. You were that.
I'm the one I'm the exact reason they got rid of in the Opens. But the whole time I was thinking about just the fact that he told me we will not throw plastics. We're going to crank all day, and all this kind of stuff. And here I come with my little bitty tackle box and my little bitty rods, and I get on the boat. And so the whole way. And of course, at the time, Alan Clemens was the writer for the Huntsville Times, and he's waiting at the dock for me. And I was so proud to look at him and say, see, the newspaper even wants to talk to me.
Look,
So anyway,
I didn't
that's
know
my
you.
story on Guntersville. That was the one great day that I had on Guntersville. It was magical. I was ill prepared. I had no idea how to run 66 miles from the state park to Jones Creek, and literally all of my gloves are tangled in my crankbaits. And anyway, it was a great day. Props to Greg Pugh for actually letting me catch some that day. It was the best true day I've ever had on Guntersville, actually fishing. But I know how magical that place can be, and I've been there to witness our first event there. We had a really great event there this past year, even with hot conditions on Lake Guntersville.
Very
So we've
hot.
been there in January. We've been there in February. We've been there late February. We've been there March. We've been there June. It's always been a phenomenal fishery. I think one year we had 38 bags over 20 pounds. It was March 2018, I think. So we have seen some really magical days. So let's talk about it. By the time people listen to this, we're going to be 11 days from that tournament, expecting cold weather to come in. 3202 Brandon Staggs, Jerry Wright, February 1st, 2014. Who have you got marked on your little secret list that I sent you of teams you think we need to be watching?
Well, I think we've already mentioned one. I think McAvoy Butts because they've got an early spring win. You know what they're going to do. They know what they're going to do. Everybody knows what they're going to do. They just do it a little better than everybody a lot of the time, and they're just fantastic. You know, multiple time winners on the ABT. Won this year at Neely Henry. Can't count them out ever. I think can we have a two-time ABT 100 champion and the two? We might have to make a special Snow Bowl trophy for Jed Lamb, Andrew Loberg. I think if you were a betting man, I remember I picked them last year when they were unknowns in the Alabama Bass Trail, but man, they had a heck of a season. Obviously, fantastic anglers, but they've been putting up some numbers over there. Loberg's now a Guntersville guy. He lives there. Jed's a fantastic fisherman. If you can get Jed out of the duckwoods long enough, he might be able to catch some fish. But I think those guys. I've got Zeke Gossett, Ethan King on here just because I'm not gonna bet against those guys ever. And in the last couple of years, they've put together some wintertime a little special deal on Guntersville. It seems just keeping up on social media. Obviously, they lost out on the ABT 100 Angler of the Year. You know that stings. They lost it there at Wheeler. They had boat issues, mechanical issues that last day, and I think they're going to come out swinging because they always do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not picking against those two ever. Derek Hicks, Alex Davis, Guntersville. Enough said. And trust me, I know Alex Davis and Derek both very well. Alex Davis wants an ABT 100 trophy, but he wants one on that pond. Big time. Big time. It's a matter of pride. And I will say, I think this winter he's fished, he stays very busy as a guy, but he's fished as much this winter as I ever really remember him fishing
Mm-hmm.
and been good. So if they don't do any good, it's not for lack of knowing where it's going to go down and what they need to do. So I think those guys. And then my fifth pick would be, again, trying to go two-time ABT 100, Walt Roberts, Robert Greenberg. Does momentum exist in this sport? Absolutely. Does anybody know Guntersville as well as Walt? Like he's way up there. Doesn't live here anymore. He's not over there as much. But Walt is a dude that is a problem with a rod and reel, and as he
Mm-hmm.
showed in the ABT 100, the finale this year, this past season on Wheeler. So that's my top five. I'm picking Walt, and you'd call that my dark horse because he doesn't live over there anymore as much. But and there's so many other good names. It's just too many. I saw on our magic list, you got, and these guys aren't Guntersville guys. Chris Rutland, Russ Lane. You kidding me?
I would
They're
like to know how much money that duo has won.
I saw that and I'm like, they're getting the band back together. Lock it up, boys. Don't get like that. That team, him and Kobe Carden are enough of a problem, but him and Russ were actually that was the original
The original
duo. Like,
OGs, like
yeah,
that's.
and they're in it because of Eufaula, I
Mm-hmm.
would say, because they used to win a lot of money down there back when I first got to knowing those guys. But yeah, so many teams though, man. There's so many Tennessee River Hammers, a lot of guys local to me that are probably we'll talk about later in the year when we get to Wilson for sure. But they've got a lot of success on Guntersville as well, like the Surratts, Trent and Johnny Surratt. I think Trent's up to like 5 or 6 BFL wins on the Tennessee River. It's insane. They've got, I believe, a Heartland Championship on Guntersville in the early spring or maybe late fall that they've won. So could be dangerous. You've got Donnie Beck. I mean, it's just too many, and I think so much of all these teams that it's very hard to whittle it down to five for these always.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I cannot believe Trent and Johnny were not in your top five. Like I only because they're just their knowledge of the Tennessee River. Um, I'm going to say I had Donnie Beck and Tony Harvey. That's my number one pick. I don't. I just am never going to pick against them on Guntersville on the Tennessee River. They're always going to be in my top five. Always, always. Again, Jed and Andrew, I have Stephen McAvoy and Josh Butts. I have Trent Surratt, Johnny, I have them. Jason Cannon and JD Bedford. I know Jason. I've watched Jason fish our trail before, did really well, lost to Angler of the Year just by a tad bit a year or so ago. There's some other guys here, though, like I'm going to show you who my dark horses are. I'm going to tell you who my dark horses are. Brian Stifler, Wesley Gore, because,
Well,
because,
yeah, yeah. That's
because I
a
just,
safe bet everywhere, right? It's
that,
like
you know,
dating.
I just think, and I don't have them written down, but I think that winning an Alabama Bass Pro 100 or winning an Angler of the Year championship makes you so hungry. Um, I've got to put Josh and Paul in there because I know how closely they fish with Donnie and Tony. When we were at Guntersville a couple of years ago, I kind of feel like that, they're kind of on that same type of fishing pattern that Donnie and Tony get on. So I didn't write them down, but in my mind, they have to be there. Zeke and Ethan, they're in my dark horse thing. I'm like you just can't bet against them. The amount of knowledge and time they put in. And I'll have to go and check, but I want to say Ethan and Zeke are 100% in Alabama Bass Trail. Like I'd have to check north, but something tells me I know they're south. I know they're 100s. And I want to say they're both north, south, and 100s, but I'll check that before we do our next podcast. But going through some of these, Jeremy Lamb, that's Jed's brother. Him and
I saw
Blake
that name. I
Hall.
didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that team I have circled Jason Niedergasses and Gasses. Is it
Niederkassess.
Niedergasses?
Niederkassess. That's a Lawrenceburg, Tennessee name. Niederkassess.
Niedergasses. Good Lord.
And Jason
Uh
Smith, but he's known
Jason
as
and
Smooch.
Jason. We'll just do
It's
Jason and
Smooch and Jason.
Smoot and Jason. I mean, that's
Oh,
not
they know the deal over
they
there.
know the deal. I think that's going to be interesting. Really interested to see how that first tournament goes for them, and then see where they rank in that Angler of the Year um, uh,
By,
talk.
by
So
the way, I will say this about Jason Nickerson, Jason Smith. I ran into those guys a couple weeks after our ABT 100 on Wheeler at a Mexican restaurant here in my hometown. And a lot of these guys we're talking about I've grown up around and grew up with, and we live in the same little town up here. And I hear somebody yelling at me. He said, "Hey, Duncan, got a bone to pick with you." I'm like, "Dang." So I go back there and I'm like, "What's up,
you say,
guys?"
get in line, dude. Get
Yeah,
in line.
exactly. Yeah, it's a long list, boys. And they were like, "Why did you tell them? We know it was you that told them to put a tracker on us at Wheeler in the ABT 100 because all of us we didn't have one, and then we did out of nowhere. That was you, wasn't it?" And I was like, "Maybe." Yeah, I might have sent that text. Yeah, I didn't know why we weren't covering you guys. And they said, "Well, we stunk it up. It's your fault." They were giving me a hard time. They were a late boat number. They were like, "Look, man, we weren't going to get on what we wanted to get on. We didn't think." And anyways, yeah, they were giving me a hard time over the tracker. And I said, "Well, get used to it because you're not going to fly under the
Not
radar."
this year. I mean, you're not going to get
No,
out of it this year, dude.
two out of three. We might leave them alone at Eufaula,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but not if they're in the top five in AOI. We're not going to.
No.
So
No.
two. This is a very Tennessee River heavy field. Obviously, we're looking at that. Wilson's going to be the one for me late in the year. And I know we're talking Guntersville, but looking at the list because there's so many more we haven't even mentioned yet. It's going to be a shootout on Wilson Lake because there ain't a rock that most of this crew doesn't know to throw at. And that November tournament's going to be wild.
I'm saying this right now. If you don't watch any other live coverage on Alabama Bass Trail this year, you're going to want to watch Wilson Lake. One,
Yeah.
it's never televised. You'll never
Yeah.
see a televised event on Wilson Lake. And with this group of anglers,
Oh
because,
man.
we didn't even mention Mitch Mitchell and
Oh,
Austin
I
Weaver.
know. Yeah, and I apologize to Mitch and Austin. Like, I'm sorry.
I mean, like, I'm sitting here going through the list, and like I said, a number of these teams are new to the Alabama Bass Pro 100. Eric White, Eddie Jewell, Wilson
Tennessee River.
Lake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Tennessee River Rats, get ready, Wilson Lake. I mean, not that they're not going to be competitive on Guntersville. They are going to be competitive on Guntersville. But when I'm going through this list and I'm looking at some of these names, one that sticks out to me, Justin Bussey and Ben Webb.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, what a heck of a tournament that they had there in June. They
Mhm.
fished with us the year before at Guntersville as well, was there in March. I just like they've got to be on my list, that we're looking at.
Well, they just keep
That
getting better
is,
too, right? We were
oh,
talking to them. We're shooting the Angler of the Year recap. They're talking about their tournament fishes. They were finishes. They were both kind of out of it for a little bit, and they got
mm-hmm,
into it, and progressively, like their Angler of the Year numbers have gotten better and better and better, including this year winning in the
mm-hmm,
North. So I think those guys aren't going to fall off in 2025. You're going to see them. They're going to be a threat everywhere we go. And something I've noticed, they at the Bassmaster Team Championship, they're kind of hanging around that Anaya crew a little bit. And I don't know enough about both of their fishing styles, Justin and Ben, but we know what Fisher and Ryan do. It's the scoping deal. Fisher's locked in on that. So they're probably talking and sharing stuff. And I just think
mm-hmm.
it's going to make them more versatile, more dangerous moving forward. Those guys at the Angler, that was so cool, the Angler of the Year recap. And I don't think we've even got to do a podcast maybe since then. I can't remember. It's been a
No, we
crazy
haven't.
months. But talking with those guys, man, they're stone cold catchers. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and the same with CJ and Anthony. But like, you talk
Yeah.
to those guys, you're like, yeah, I get it. I get why you didn't have a finish worse than 20th. I
Yeah.
totally
You,
understand.
I love how we did the best of show. We'll talk about that. Let's talk about that in just a minute. I want to look back through here. Johnny Patterson, that's a name you see on Gunnersville all the time. You
Yeah,
used to see
yeah,
it
a
constantly.
lot. Yeah,
So I'm excited about that team. David Pear, Jimmy Mason. Jimmy's
yes.
on the Tennessee
Sorry,
River all the
Jimmy.
time.
Yeah, sorry
Um,
I didn't mention you, Jimmy.
I mean, dude, like I'm going through here, Nolan Spencer and his dad. And then you've got those guys that are on here for you fellow. We keep jumping forward to Wilson, but of course, Chris Rutland and Russ Lane, Shane Powell, Tim Fox in the mix
No,
here this time. Um, so it's gonna be like just looking at this list makes me more fired up. Like I looked at it before you come on and I was like, okay, we're gonna talk about these guys. But then when you keep looking, and there's a lot of people on here that I don't know too. So um
I
that
knew more names than I didn't this year. I feel like though,
yeah,
for sure. And look, with all that being said, then you still got Justin Hamner, Bassmaster
I was
Classic,
gonna say
a scoping freak of nature.
mm-hmm.
Turn him loose on Guntersville in January, not talk about him. Like, there's so many to pick. It's so hard because the 100s, it's a smaller field, but it is absolutely stacked this year and every year. Look, like, let's be honest, it's always like this. There'll be some names that change every year, but like this year is it's wild. But going through there, I'm like you, I got so excited about the season just looking at the names. I'm like, man, this is going to be so much fun. I love the 100s. I love the North and the South, but like those 100s are from a coverage standpoint and everything, just with the 100 boats. It's just, man, and I felt the same way when I fished them. Like, those were truly my favorite events that I got to compete in the ABT, and they're a good one. So if you're watching this and your name's not on that list because you were late and lazy, Robert G, and some of these other guys that have reached out to me,
25th on the waiting list, by the way.
yeah,
Never did get to
yeah,
him. Never
yeah,
did get
yeah.
to him.
Some of these guys that have reached out, sign up early this year for the
Well,
next season.
and I want to say that because, how cool would it have been to have a guy who was on such a roll like Robert G. I mean, had a
Yeah,
phenomenal year, but ended up 25th on the waiting list. I couldn't get to him. Like, I think
yeah,
Chris Rutland, Russ Lane was the last team in, and they were on the waiting list. Honestly, when I saw Chris's name on the waiting list, I was shocked because there's not any Cousa River lakes on this list. And I'm like, wait just a minute. But I didn't know that he was going Russ Lane. Didn't know if it was
yeah,
Kobe or Russ. And then boom, I get the information. It's like, okay, that tells me a little something. Those guys have won money all over the place. I mean, it's going to be really fun to watch them. We'll certainly have a tracker and all that on them this year. Um, got a weight that you're thinking about? Like what are you thinking for winning?
I mean, I think 30. I think you got to say that. Will we break that Brandon Staggs, Jerry Wright record? I don't know. That takes obviously a very special day. But Swindle and I actually talked about this on the podcast. Like 30 pounds now in this new world of bass fishing has become such a norm. I hate to say that, but and it hurts my heart that it is because 30 was just so unheard of. But like the Pickwick Winter Trail right now, it's just like 30, 30, 30, 30, 32, 33, 34. You just see all these crazy bags. So I think you're going to have to be around that 30 neighborhood to even consider winning over there
Will we
on
see
the
a
eight.
double digit big fish?
That's the weird thing about Guntersville. It's I forget who it was. Maybe Justin Lucas made a video. He caught an 8 pounder not long ago, and he said, "I've lived here for so many years." He's like, "I've never broken like the 8 pound mark." Guntersville has as many 4 to 6s as anywhere in the country, but those 9 plus pound, you just don't see them a ton, right? If there's a tournament where you could see one, January would be it, right? They're heavy feeding in that winter time frame on shad. Like, yes, you could for sure, but I never throw Guntersville as one of those lakes where you see a ton of 10 pounders. Now, you want to go catch 5 pounders till you're blue in the face when you find the right deal. Guntersville's the spot, or 3 to 5 pounder, whatever. 10 pounder, I don't know. I'd say it'll be a eight Mountain Dew Big Bass, 8 poundish range somewhere.
Okay.
You
I'm
think?
not against that. I think a 10 pounder is going to be hard. I think a February, mid to late February, I think that's
Yeah.
certainly something that you could see. I
Oh yeah.
think January would be a little hard for us to see a double digit bass. I think we'll see multiple 30-pound bags. I'm going to say at least two.
Okay.
I'm going to say 20 over 20.
Damn, I'm fixing to be busy on that stage.
I hope, I really hope.
No,
So,
I do too. I think it's capable. We've seen it.
mhm,
It's capable. It's
mhm.
all going to do with what the conditions are that day, though. I feel like,
I
you
do
know,
hope we get on a little bit of a warming trend, just personally, because I'm
yeah,
not. I don't know if I've mentioned that here on the podcast, but if I haven't, let me just go out here and say I hate cold weather. I loathe it. I'm not a hunter. I don't enjoy even. I'm a big I love clothes. I love shopping. Don't even like winter clothes. Don't like winter. Period. End of
I hate it.
discussion.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it. Um, I do want to talk a little bit about some things that's happened since you were on the podcast. Okay, we've got BASS going out, no co-anglers on the opens next year. Thoughts on that? I'm sure you probably covered it on your own podcast, but thoughts on
I
that?
talked about it. So I was fished as a co-angler a lot. Like that's how I started as a kid. And the first year Red Bands had co-anglers when I was 16. I did that. And so I'm not an anti co-angler guy. That being said, I don't think they have any place in the Bassmaster Opens when a guy's trying to get to the Elite Series. And the reason I say that is the participation numbers have gone down so bad. Like my main point with it is when I was fishing the opens, I guess last year I was fishing was maybe 22, I can't remember. But like I would have days where like 2 days in a row I would have a co-angler and then a bunch of buddies of mine wouldn't have a co-angler. Well, that's we're but we're competing against each other, and I've got somebody I'm having to I don't mean this rude, but like cater to, right?
Right.
Like I'm a guy that even if somebody throws you off your game a little bit, talking or whatever the case is, like you are having to got somebody else in your boat when you're out there by yourself. It's just you. It's just like a practice day, and I would see that, and that would frustrate me. I'm like, how is this
Hmm.
fair? How is
Hmm.
it? I get one for both days, and a buddy of mine didn't have one 2 days in a row.
Hmm.
Uh, so I think trying to get to that level where you make the elites, you don't have a co-angler anymore. You don't have to deal with that. I think that the elites and the opens rules have needed to be the same really for a long time. So I'm fine with it. I know there'll be some co-anglers upset. My take is also, and I said when I was joking with you about you're one of those co-anglers.
Oh, I was
I think to me, the co-angler program in when it was designed was meant to educate, you know,
mentor. Hmm.
maybe you don't have a boat, maybe you can't afford a boat. You want to get into tournament bass fishing. Hey, this is the program for you. Come right around, see these lakes, check it out, see if this is a thing for you. Maybe you become a boat buyer, maybe you progress. And there are so many pros from Scott Martin to Justin Lucas to uh, Joey Cifuentes, John Hunter, uh, more than I can name that
Hmm.
were fantastic. Matt Airy. Brian knew, Brian Thrift, fantastic co-anglers, but they were in it to progress and for the right reasons. And I'm not saying everybody's got to have that, but I drew personally so many over the years that would show up. They think it's a guide trip.
Hmm.
You start catching fish, they're immediately ticked off. They start running their mouth. You have an alter, and I'm, for despite popular opinion, I'm a pretty easy guy to get along with. Believe it or not, I am. Don't
I'm
you?
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just
You're
kidding.
going to add to it. No, I am, especially on the boat. I'm like, hey man, we got to spend 8 hours on the boat together. It's us. We're out
Yeah.
here on this little island together all day long. We got to help each other out. But I've had some doozies over the years, and for every doozy I've had, all my buddies have had multiple doozies, and I just never approach. I always wanted to not be that guy. Like
Right.
when I was fishing FLW tour and I get paired with JT Kinney on the Potomac River, where he's a favorite to win, I don't want to be in his way.
Yeah.
I want to watch the dude go to work. And if I
Right.
get to catch me 12 or 13 pounds behind him, awesome. But if I
Yeah.
don't, check it in the book as I got to watch that guy break down a tidal fishery today.
Right.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I had so many of those experiences. And I think the the co-angler lifestyle really it changed, man. It really did start changing. I saw it on the FLW tour from the year I fished all the entire season as a co was 15, I guess. And I got a win. You were allowed to fish the Forest Wood Cup. And I can remember making the cup and thinking, I ain't got no business being here. These boys are for $500,000. You know what I mean? Like I'm in the back of the
Yeah.
boat. I'm like, I don't want, they
Yeah.
come up to Doolin and I'm like, hey man, I don't even want to cast over there. Like you're fishing
Yeah.
for $500,000. Like
True.
it's
True.
being here and watching this, but and I'll never forget that cup. It was an awesome experience. But I was like, yeah. And that was last year they allowed them. And then in 19, they did away and came up with the Marshall program. And man, it was awesome. Like the attitude from Marshals versus co-anglers that we had that year. That was my last year fishing the tour. It was great. Man, they would ask questions. It was just like, hey man, why are you doing what you're doing? There was none of this. Like it wasn't a competition. So they wanted to know like how practice went. Why'd you choose this area? Why are you throwing that bait? And just talked. It was a really cool experience. I enjoyed that so much better. And look, man, I've had co-anglers and I have some that would tell you, like I drew, I love this story. There was a kid that was leading. I drew a kid that was leading at Cherokee, one of the last opens I fished, and I had a abysmal day one. An abysmal day one. Was ready to go home. Like, well, hell, I'll just go to the house. I ain't in the points, like whatever. I was gonna be that guy. And a lot going on in life at the time. I was like, screw this. And I love Cherokee up in Tennessee. It's one of my favorite lakes. But I drew a young man that was like 18, and he was leading, and he fished with Polnick the first day, and he'd caught 3 big ones behind Polnick. And we drew the absolute latest boat number we could draw on day 2. We had the last weigh in. And I mean, I'm talking about like my abysmal. I had like 2 the first. I'm like, I'm so far out of it. Like, Jesus ain't bringing me back out of it. Right? Like, it ain't going to happen. Like, I ain't no way it's Cherokee. Like, there ain't no 30-pound bags I'm going to stumble up on. Like, I'm cooked. Let's go on to the next one. Sometimes you just got to call it what it is. I sucked. So this kid, he calls me. I'm like, hey man, what place are you in? And I'm thinking, we're going to cut out of here about lunch, dog. And he's like, I'm leading. And I'm like, well, I said, well, by George, you're going to have every opportunity tomorrow to try to win. And listen, I took that day, and for the majority of it, if I had a rock pile I'd been catching on, I would back the boat to it and be like, throw right there. Throw your swim bait over there, man. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, man, I'll net them. I'll grab them, catch them, whatever. And all day. And I've never felt, and at the end of the day, he caught like 1. And I'll never forget, I got on a spinnerbait deal. I ended up catching like 14 pounds, which didn't mean no good, didn't matter. And I'm catching, I'm like, hey man, throw up here. Do that. Like I'm trying to help him so much. But I love situations like that where you do feel like you're working together. And I had co-anglers that would be like that, man. They're fist bumping and all that. Not all of them are created equal though. So I think if I'm investing the time, energy, effort, and money into the opens, try to get the next level, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. And it did look like there was a lot of uproar online. I haven't been online a ton, but I think there was when Bass killed it. You remember when they took it out of like the top 100s, it was the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. I didn't see a ton of backlash on it. Um, not on Facebook, not on Instagram, really not on TikTok. I know there's some people that were disappointed in it. They were looking forward to the year and all that. Felt like the decision could have been made sooner, I think, because they missed
Yeah,
out
for
on
sure.
getting to sign up for some of the other things. I think that was really the only gripe that I saw. I know my lines lit up that day because people trying to get in the ABT, and I was like, well,
Sure.
we're sold. So that was the only thing I saw. I think it makes total sense. I know that that's a tremendous amount of entry fees that Bass is walking away from, and it has gone down over the years. So how they compensate for that and all that. Anything new rocking with the NPFL? I know y'all
Yeah.
just round up your season. You got no forward facing sonar next year. Have they published a roster yet of who's going to be there
Not,
for 2023?
not
Okay.
yet, but it's like your sneaky list. I've got it.
Yeah.
And and as I'm as excited about that, man, as I have been a long time. They're going the no forward facing sonar route. We talked about that a little bit this year, and I think it would be very interesting. But if fans want an option to watch without forward facing, there ain't nobody gonna be anybody staring down, shaking them in. I
Yeah.
promise you, for 6 tournaments, you'll get a break from it. But the roster is we've got a lot of guys coming back that I'm really excited about. There's going to be some people that are surprised. I did a podcast. We did announce Gerald Swindle. He's joining in, but he ain't the only veteran that's joining in and going to be fishing both the Elite Series and that, or the BPT and that. And we've got some guys that have left BPT that are joining us. I can't. I won't name that. I won't ruin their
No,
surprise
no, no, no.
when they
That's
get on
that's
the
that's
roster.
fine. I just
But yeah, it's going to be. They've got a good size field, and it is. It's like the 100s. It's stacked up. You're going to earn your paycheck next year. But a lot of excitement. We moved away from the production company they've been using. They're gonna go a different route this year. I'm actually going to be broadcasting from the events again, which is what we do in ABT. And I love that so much. I've not got to do that since that 2021 season. So I get to be back on boots on the ground with everybody there. And because we've just been in the studio, you've heard me gripe about it,
yeah,
just away from everybody. We're either in a
yeah,
hotel in Wisconsin or we're in the studio. We're not
yeah.
at the tournament. We're not feeling that energy, being at the weigh-ins, being able to catch a guy when he comes off stage and ask him about his day. So really looking forward to that. And I've got a lot of friends that I've made through MPFL, and a lot of friends that are coming from other trails to fish. So it's gonna be a really fun 25.
Good deal. Anything else you're hearing in the industry that excites you? I know we're all kind of waiting on the inauguration and all that to kind of take place and see how things are actually going to settle down for the United States, if that's the case. But anything in the fishing industry, I know your ear is always to the ground that you hear about. Um, and then if that's a no, give me your opinion on what you feel like there is space for in the fishing industry right now. Do you think everything is being answered? You've got high school, you've got college, you've got amateur, you've got team. You know, I would say the opens and the invitationals, that's kind of your minor leagues of the bass fishing world, are all boxes being checked right now. What do you see as far as the state of the bass fishing world?
I think it's to answer the first question. Is there anything ear to the ground exciting? Not really, other than MPFL. That's a huge change. Like saying, hey, this is what we're doing. We're throwing this out. You can't use it anymore. MLF kind of did the hybrid thing. I really am excited to watch MPFL this year to see those guys just get back to, hey, we're just going to go do what we've always done, sort of deal, and see how it shakes out. See what the weights look like, see who comes out on top. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to I like the BPT's idea of it where you can only use forward facing for one period and you got to claim it and all that. I thought that was a pretty cool with their format. They can do that. So that hybridized sort of deal, I think, is a really good olive branch to the people that don't like it and the people that do like it. I'm anxious for their season to get started to watch that. So I'm excited about that. Bass really, it was like Band-Aid on a bullet hole kind of with the 55 inches. Again, they made changes, but nothing monumental, right? Uh, they tried to do it with scheduling. I feel like a little bit more than anything, but for me, I do think right now, yeah, all the boxes are getting checked for the most part. I think you know, folks can fish something like the ABT 100. That's amazing. They can fish the north. They can fish the south. You've got trails that are out in Texas that we've talked about so much that are big trails. I think if you have a desire to fish at the team level, you can find, we have people represented from multiple states that fish with us with ABT, right? But I think with the pro levels, having these options is a good thing. I think some people in the industry would argue, oh, there's too many mouths to feed with all the different trails and sponsorship. That's what you have to do, right? Like it's a hustle trying to, hey, why are we better than this trail, that trail? So uh that being said, I think having an MPFL with no forward facing is a good thing. Having Bass with their deal, being Bass, right? Like they got the classic and having MLF doing kind of trying these different things. I think all of that and with MLF having all the different levels of that organization and it's a different rule at every level. I think it's you can get in where you fit in this year. I think really the sport of bass fishing. I do worry, it tournament fishing not at our level, not at ABT. I feel like it's as strong as ever, the team tournament level. But I do feel like there's been so much, and this will sound weird coming from me, but there's just been so much drama, truly, in the ranks of professional fishing. The upper level, the guys everybody looks up to since 2019, since the Bass BPT split. And I see it every week in comments on the podcast when I do it. Like people are kind of over that crap a
Hmm.
little bit. And it does worry me for that upper echelon of the sport. And this off season has been a lot more of it yet again, and so I hope that we can all just kind of settle in and maybe some of the complaining online will slow down. And if you don't like watching forward facing sonar, you know what? Go watch the MPFL or go watch BPT for the tours for the hours they can't use it or pro circuit or whatever. And if you're all in, just go watch bass. I hope that some of this kind of calms down because it's a toxic environment online, the fishing industry the last couple of years.
I've said the same thing, and that's why we try to. And Angela does a really good job of now kind of taking over our social media, and I don't get as involved in it. I just got tickled at a message she sent me. I like your take on the DocuSign post. I swear that is the most frustrating thing that I deal with all year, um, because it's just hard to not understand why people can't do that. But anyway, we'll get it all handled. It is a thing. We'll get it all handled. Um, I am excited about the Alabama Bass Trail 100. I'm excited to get back out there working. Jason a month ago puts his dibs in on Andrew and Jed. Like I'm following them. I'm
You
following them.
heard, Jason, if you're listening to this and not watching this, that was a huge eye roll your way because you always pick. Now, look, I hope they're making a 50-mile run if he's picking them. And I hope whoever I get drawn out with fishing at Goose Pond, I hope y'all
Fishing
fishing
that
all
bridge.
the way at North Saudi. Let's go. I'll sit there all day long, spotlight, baby. I'm ready to go. Don't
Uh,
nobody going to Honeycomb because I'm
yeah.
gonna go there and put in.
You
I'm
gonna go in there and put
like,
in. You're gonna trailer there and
yeah,
put in at
we gonna
Honeycomb.
ride them heated seats in that Chevrolet all the way to Honeycomb. I'll see y'all
Dude,
there.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Honeycomb's one of my favorite places on the
Love it.
whole lake. I
Yeah,
mean, I
love it.
know North South Saudi, like I get that, but Honeycomb to me is I just like that area of the lake. It's always been a fun place to go and
Ah,
fish and all that.
the
But hey,
lower end.
Scottsboro, Alabama, I think it's like the third time ever the Alabama Bass Trail has visited Scottsboro, Alabama. So we'll get to go to docks and we'll get to do some of the Scottsboro side of things that we don't typically get to do. So I'm
Yeah,
excited about that. Be back at Goose Pond. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm,
2025, dude. Like, I think it's like 32 days, and we got that first Smith Lake tournament. And
yeah,
let's
we're
just be
we're
honest,
rocking
dude. It could snow there. I mean, it
for sure.
has. It
Probably
has.
will.
So
Probably will. Let's just be honest. Probably
let's
will.
just be honest.
Just be
I
honest.
just I just keep my fingers crossed to April. Like I've already like
Hey,
text John how much sand and salt do we have and all the things. So luckily it's 100 boats. It goes, they get in pretty fast, and if we can be proactive and take care of that stuff, maybe. But I'm praying for 45-degree highs,
please, yeah.
32-degree lows, and 45-degree highs. That's what I'm praying for.
Go
So
team. Get them teens out of here. We
get the
don't.
teens out, dude. Dude,
Yeah,
I'm
the 10-day. I looked at it. Yeah, it's showing some. Which 10 days we're still a few days out, but it was highs in the 30s. Like, all right. None of that frigid stuff. What scared me, and I think you texted in our Alabama Bass Trail group text maybe a week or so ago now, and the James Spans of the world, and people were saying the coldest air mass we've seen since 2022. And I'm like, man, it was pretty damn cold last January.
Yeah.
What
I
cold are y'all
don't
talking about?
I said that, like, I don't
That
know
didn't
where these
happen.
people are coming from
Yeah.
because when it snowed here the week prior to our tournament on Logan, it never got above like 24, 25 degrees. And where people were getting that this was the coldest air we've had in 2 years, or people are talking, oh, 1993, we had snow in March. Well, we had ice and snow in January last year. And I remember going over to our office, which I work from home, but going over to our office and no one had driven on that street. Like I
Yeah.
remember getting on my hands and knees and trying to crawl up to the stairs because there was no possible way I was walking. And I know how ridiculous I looked, by the way. I 100%. Luckily, no one came out of their house to see, but literally trying to get from where my truck was parked to our stairs to just try to get to ground that didn't have ice on it. So it was a very cold. I remember the Saturday we were supposed to have that tournament and wind was blowing 40 miles an hour. It was absolutely brutal. It was not fun on Sunday, but 14 degrees, 23, 24 sounds a hell of a lot better to me than
Buddy, what are
14
you talking
degrees.
about? 14 calling them boat numbers. This beard was crispy by the time I got done. And when I pulled up on Zeke Gossett, Ethan King, and it's probably an hour and a half into their morning, something like that, when I finally got in the water and got going. Uh, and they netted one, laid the net on the back deck, and the net froze to the back deck. I will never forget that as long as I live. And I was like, son, we bass fishing today. And they called them. Like, it was
They
such
did.
a good tournament. Highest viewed ABT ever. I have no doubt that this one will be the same. Guntersville, prime time, folks at home. You know
The
what I mean?
names that we have
Yeah,
in the field, I
man,
mean, there's no doubt in my
it's
mind that
gonna be
people are
fun.
going to tune into this, even though they have subpar talent like you, myself, Darian, and Jason to watch. I mean, this,
Oh, don't listen. I don't know if you know this or not, but you shouldn't tell Darian that he's subpar anything. Now he's like a
oh
shark.
no, yeah,
He's gone on. He's crossed over.
he's Hollywood gold now.
You'll have
So
to have him a director's chair and ladies feeding him grapes and fanning him at the end of the stage this year. He's going to be so hard to deal with that I'm just not looking forward to it. I'm being
yeah.
honest. I'm looking forward to everything but dealing with him, Diva Darian.
You know, we've said this before, and Darian knows this. We love him, and we are so extremely proud for him and for his company. I mean, that was a really cool thing. Probably one of my coolest moments in 2024 was to watch a kid from the ninth grade that I watched fish, watch weigh in. You know, long story short, been a friend of our family's for years, took my daughter to prom, watched him grow his business, go away from his business, come to TH, do social media for multiple companies. And to watch him turn his talent for social media and how it's benefited his company, and for him to go in there and be successful, him and his partner, Brandon, it was one of the coolest moments. And then
It
on
was.
top of that, probably even more than watching him grow his business and be successful is to watch him be the husband and the daddy that he
No
is.
doubt.
Like
Yeah.
that to me is the coolest thing that I have ever witnessed. And I'm so excited. I'm thankful that he said yes to me when I called him. I'm thankful you said yes. Jason, I don't know that Jason had a choice. He was like, okay, you can't leave. I'm already replacing two. You can't leave. But just the magic, I think, that happened on the Alabama Ambassador last year that was really cultivated through y'all's relationship and just how it just kind of grew. And I think it made our audience even more loyal, because I think your loyal audiences came to see you doing that and Darian's as well. But to know that it's homegrown, I mean, you bass fish, you know it.
Oh,
Darian knows it. You know, Jason knows it. It's just kind of homegrown. I'm just in the studio trying to write down everything y'all say. So,
I
but it was
just
really cool.
I thank you for the opportunity and it's kind of been a crazy fall. Lots of things going on personally in life that talked about, but the ABT family means so much to me, and it is indeed that. And heck, man, it's just been since November, but it's been a break. I miss everybody. I
Yeah.
miss Noah, and I miss John and Jason, Darian, the whole crew. Now we got Miss Angela joining in,
Yeah.
and it's just it's a special thing to be a part of, and I can't wait to get going. I just pray that it's not 7 degrees.
I know that I do this to myself. I do the scheduling, but we really are trying to be able to have the BPT guys, to have the elite guys, and to have guys from other states come down and fish with us. All going for this at the end of the year. I love this
Right.
little belt. I mean, like that is so cool. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah, I
fit
got to
very
hold
good.
it for a little bit at Wheeler. It was nice.
Yeah, I don't wear it all the time. I promise you, I don't sit here and wear it all the time.
You've been
But
doing
it's the only.
cannonball cold plunges. I know you've been wearing that belt.
Ooh, I almost did one January 1st and I
Ah,
thought better of myself of it. I thought, nah, who am I trying to prove anything to? I'm not.
here's the thing. We'll end on this today. Why in the hell would you want a cold plunge when there's something called a hot tub that exists in life? Why would you do that? And I'll tell the folks at home, I own a hot tub. Listen, everybody in life, they listen to people like Dave Ramsey. He's like, save your money, do this. No, listen to me. Buy a hot tub. You will be better off. Take whatever money you was going to save up for your kids. No, buy you a hot tub. Buy a hot tub. You'll be better off in life. Trust me.
I hope, I hope somebody I know does not listen to this because I did want to buy a heater for the pool and I got X'd, because it's only cold a couple months a year. It's not that big of a pool. It'll heat up in no time. Blah, 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 blah. So I hope he doesn't listen to
Hot
this.
tub. Hot tub. Get a hot tub. Forget a cold plunge. Get a hot tub. That's where
I'm
it's at.
gonna what's the feet picture website? I'm gonna send feet
Yeah.
pictures to afford
Feet,
a hot tub.
feetpictures.com or whatever. I don't know, but
Yeah.
ain't nobody trying
Check
to see my
check
ugly
out the
feet.
foots.com. Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, thank you for tuning in. I'm not sure that anybody's gonna get anything out of this podcast, but that is exactly how our life
What we
is from
do.
time to time. It's what we do. But dude, we have 11 days to the Alabama Bass Trail 100.
Go.
And you know how it is. It's boom, 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 boom. You're at the classic, and then boom, boom, boom.
Rolling.
It's June 21st and we're over. So it goes really, really fast. The older I get, the faster time goes.
That's definitely how it is for me. Because you
Yeah.
just blink and because I truly feel like, and people say this is cliche, I feel like we're just now getting ready for Logan Martin last year. Like
Hmm.
it's so weird to me because we did once it started, and I have a lot going on with MPFL and with ABT, and so it consumes a lot of my weekends, tournament frame. And you look up and you're like, this is July. Holy
No.
cow! Where did that time go? And
Yeah.
ride, man, it's been a lot of fun. I know this year is going to be even better. This schedule, this ABT 100 schedule. Let's go.
It is by far
Oh,
to me one of the best schedules that we've had. The 2026 schedule is shaping up to be okay. I'm already starting on some of that. But first of all, we got to get this one under our belt and I'll be able to
yeah,
breathe just a little bit. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I will see you in 11 days.
11 days. Let's go.
All right, guys, there you have it. Luke Dunkin will be back for the third and final segment of this week's podcast in just a moment. Y'all stay tuned.
I've been with Jax for 25 years. Hey! And I've seen my share of game days here in Tuscaloosa, and nothing brings us together like football and good food. Good luck, y'all. We're firing up the grill with our new Steakhouse Bacon Burger and Steakhouse Patty Melt. 2 all beef patties, mushrooms, onions, melted Swiss, and our signature steak sauce. Whichever way you go, you're gonna win. Score a new Steakhouse Bacon Burger or Steakhouse Patty Melt from Jax. I'm Taylor Kitchens, and I'm all about the South.
Welcome back to the third and final segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast, the first one for 2025. Luke Dunkin always got a lot to talk about. We get around to fishing eventually, but you got to go through around Mary's house and back actually for us to get into the fishing talk. I do want to cover the Cousa River slot limit. I've had a lot of questions and emails over the holiday to kind of see where we are on that. I did a interview with Frank Sargent. He put it on his online story. Uh, did that. I did an interview this morning with ABC 3340 that will air on the day that you hear this on January the 7th. Did an interview with Aaron Wise about the slot limit. The last communication that we've had with the Department of Conservation is that they have a meeting on March the 8th with the Conservation Advisory Board. But between now and that time, they're expected to do several stakeholder meetings or meetings to allow the public input on the proposal. And then at the March 8th Conservation Advisory Board meeting or the CAB meeting, they will either make a proposal, they will table it, or they'll move forward with the 14 to 20 inch slot limit. That we don't know yet. So at best I know is we're just waiting for a day for a public hearing, and hopefully we'll hear about that and can pass that along. To my knowledge, it is going to be for tournament organizers as well as boat dealers and cities and counties that host bass tournaments. That's who that meeting is going to be open to. If they choose to do a series along the Cousa River, then I'm sure they'll open that up to the public. But right now, that's what we're under the understanding. But right now, the meeting is set to be discussed on March the 8th at the Conservation Advisory Board. But all that to be said, 11 days to the Alabama Bass Trail 100 at Lake Guntersville in Scottsboro, Alabama, Goose Pond Colony. Looking forward to that. As we've already talked about, there are a ton of people on this list that you're going to want to watch. Nobody else is fishing this early in the year, so tune in to the Alabama Bass Trail live. You'll want to watch it on Alabama Bass Trail 100, also on the Alabama Bass Trail 100 Facebook page and on our YouTube account. We'll be going live sometime around that 7 a.m. mark. We'll stay live until 11 and then back at the weigh-in at 3 o'clock. So look forward to that. If you have time, come out to Goose Pond. Bring a lawn chair, come out and enjoy meeting the team and seeing the guys weigh in these fish. Hopefully we'll see multiple 30-pound bags and make me look smart. That's always the goal there. So Alabama Bass Trail North Division, 32 days from Smith Lake over on the Jasper side of Smith Lake. We'll be going out of Smith Lake Dam. Looking forward to that. And then 46 days, you ABT South guys, y'all have a chance to finish hunting season and then get ready for February the 22nd at Lake Martin. Looking forward to that. Going to be a lot of fish caught. Anybody that knows Lake Martin knows that a limit is the deal there. We usually have 220 or plus limits at Lake Martin. So looking forward to that, getting back down there a little bit farther south. Maybe we'll have a little bit warmer weather. That's the goal. But this does wrap up the first segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast for 2025. I do appreciate Luke taking time to come and talk to us about football, about basketball, about co-anglers, about all the things that is bass fishing and home life and everything. It's been a while since we talked. Luke had some loss in his family at the end of the year. That kind of takes your wind out of your sails. Need some time to regroup, needed to spend with family. And it's good to be able to do that. I was glad to be able to do that. I do appreciate you guys tuning in to our show. It is time to lace up our boots, our snow boots, actually, and get ready to get back out on the trail. Thank you for tuning in. I do hope you will subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcasting app. And share it with your friends. And, always, I've closed out the podcast the same way. But this year I want to close out the podcast this way. Until next week, hug your family members. Give your pet, whether it's a dog, a cat, a horse, whatever your pet is, give them that extra treat. It's not really going to matter. At the end of the day, it's not really going to matter. Don't take things for granted. Life is too short to sweat the small stuff. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.